Hey everybody, Jennifer McCulloch here with eXp Realty, and I am so excited because today I have with me Brandon Goff with Idaho Elite. What's the official? I always just think Idaho Elite.
Idaho Elite Inspection Team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There we go. Idaho Elite Inspection Team. They're one of my favorites. We just wanted to kind of sit down and chat a little bit about inspections. And regardless if you're looking to, buy or sell, hopefully we can share some good, insightful information that you can utilize with your own home. And so maybe Brandon, first off, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, because I know you're an Idaho transplant.
Yep, we are one of those. We actually came before the pandemic.
You did? I do remember that.
We're just coming up on 6 years now here in Eastern Idaho, June of 2019. So we love it here. It's home for us, and so
that's awesome.
It's just been a great experience for us and our kids, and really that was the move. We're from Washington, so we just felt like a move was needed, and it was kid driven, and it's been a great move. We found ourselves in a great neighborhood that has lots of kids, our kids' age, and it's been awesome. So,
how old are your kids?
Our oldest is Jay, and he is 13, and Jill is 11.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and you've done a great job with building your team. I know you started out just you and your wife, and I remember you coming in and marketing to our real estate office, and I've been using you now for several years, and I've had great experience, great client experience. So we're
awesome.
Very appreciative of you. So I guess, just in starting with the basics, what is a home inspection?
That's a great question. And, we get asked a lot of times, what's the value of my house? We're not appraisers, right? So there's often some of that misconception there. Just to kind of go back, I guess, we started doing inspections in 2013 when we still lived in Washington. So that's how we kind of got into the business.
And you still have that company running in Washington?
We did have both running for a while. We actually sold it a few years ago. So that's been a nice blessing to be out of that business. It's a lot to run two companies at one time. So,
it's a lot.
But we had a great team, and it was a good experience. And now the company we sold to, they're running with it, and they're growing too. And
great.
In terms of what is a home inspection, a lot of times what I use is the analogy of a family doctor. So if you're not feeling great, you go to your doctor and you say, hey doc, I'm not feeling great. Tell me what to do. How can we make me feel better? And he'll do his little testing, and he'll say, hey, you know what? It's something with your heart, but I'm not a cardiologist, right?
Yeah.
So let's refer you to somebody. And so that's kind of who we are. We're almost like a family doctor in that sense, where our job is to go in. We're generalists. We know a little bit about a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
We're not technicians. We're not licensed necessarily. And so really that's what it comes down to, is being able to look at and test a lot of the systems in the house, and then say, hey, you know what, the furnace, it's not really working right. We're not getting quite enough heat maybe. So we would recommend, having it evaluated by, an HVAC company or something like that. So
that's a great way to put that, because I know that is one of the things I share with my clients is, you're not the expert necessarily in all things electrical. However, if there's something of concern, you're going to know just enough to know whether or not we need to worry about bringing in that specialist, because it costs more dollars to have to do that, and we want to know if we can avoid that or not.
Right.
And you guys do a good job. And so maybe tell them a little bit about all the aspects that you do cover. It's not just, the basics within the home. You cover quite a broad spectrum.
Yeah, and we've always had a system, right? Like all of our guys, we actually train them. When we come up to a house, the first thing we do is the exterior. We go to the exterior, and as much as we can, we always go left. If there's a gate on the left side, that's where we're going. We just want all of our guys to do it all the same way, right?
That's great.
And so we just get into a routine. So it's always the exterior and the roof. Then we'll go into the garage. If the electrical panel's there, we'll hit that. And then from there, it's pretty much top down, following the water. That's the kind of the general mindset we have is, so we'll go into the attic from there. Okay. If there's any moisture staining or things like that, that's one of the biggest things we're looking for, right? One of the greatest enemies of a home is water. And And so
Right.
we want to make sure that we catch any water issues that take place. And so a lot of times we have to go upstairs to start from the attic, and then we would just work our way down. So we'll go to the second floor, run all the water again in the bathrooms, check out the interiors from there, and then we'll go downstairs, and again, we're looking for water issues and things like that. So, so the exterior roof, garage, electrical systems, HVAC, plumbing, those are obviously the big ticket items, right? Structural systems, we're checking, make sure that there's no structural issues that are discovered or present. So those are kind of the main things, right?
Yeah, I love that. And these guys do a really great job of, we get a lot of people who just can't be at the inspection and they get worried about that, but you guys do a really good job of providing videos and photos and content. And they even go to the extra degree of like, if an issue does arise, you have some resources for, oh, here's a plumbing concern, here's some options that we have available. And you also, beyond that, can do the sewer line scoping and radon testing and things like that.
I mean, we try to be the one-stop shop, kind of the one solution, one call does it all. We've found ways that it's just makes it easier for us since we're already there. Obviously, the sewer scope is just another piece of equipment. If we have it, we put our guys through a training that allows them to, have the knowledge and the background to be able to do those, competently. Which is important to us before we actually put them out there to do those. But
that's good.
Trying to do it all is the best way to do it because, again, we're already there. We can do it at a more cost-effective way. Our guys are not knowledgeable and kind of like you're saying, like, the report is one thing, but also being able to communicate the findings in a way that is educational, but not overbearing, I guess is one way to put it.
Well, that's very important because it's, especially if you're not from Idaho and maybe not accustomed to seeing certain things that might happen here, like cracked concrete is kind of a big one, right? We see a lot of that. I think that's really important to be able to communicate those things to a client so they really understand the things that need to be concerned. And of course, every buyer is going to be different with what worries them or what they're comfortable with. But
And with that, we always encourage the clients to be there at the end of the inspection. It's one thing to read an inspection report, but to be able to actually have a conversation and maybe even put eyes on it with our inspector gives it a little more context, obviously. Versus just reading kind of a laundry list of problems with the house, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that. Well, and just for anyone out there that's watching, I mean, regardless if you are looking to buy or sell, Brenda, why don't you share some tips and ideas that people can do, things that maybe come up often in your inspections and reports and stuff that, if people just kind of took care of ahead of time or watch for in their own homes. I mean, we just want to be preventative, right? If we can avoid big problems, then we can save you some dollars down the road. And
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just typical maintenance things. So things, for example, most HVAC companies, that produce the furnaces and the AC units, they recommend an annual servicing on their furnaces. And so that's something that's super easy. Yeah, it costs a few $100 a year maybe, but in the long run, it'll preserve the life of that and make it last much longer versus having to replace more often is going to be a big ticket thing, right? There's some things you can do with the plumbing system, like draining the water heaters to make sure that you flush any kind of settlement that may take place inside the water heater. Just other maintenance things, on the exterior, keeping the bushes trimmed back from the house. Keeping the leaves out of the gutters.
That's a big one.
Those are, pretty basic homeowner things. And we do feel like we have to educate a lot on that, especially with our first-time home buyers. There's no more, landlord to call when you got problems, right? So being more upfront and proactive about those is definitely going to help and save you in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. I actually find that a lot too. And things just like watching, I don't know if you see this a lot, but I find vents, ceiling vents and bathrooms especially, just, cleaning those from time to time. It's one of those things we don't always think about, but you can catch condensation or, little things like that ahead of time. Just kind of being aware, bringing your awareness to it. And
a couple things that come to mind too, checking under your sinks.
Yeah, yeah.
Making sure you don't have leaks, because it's so often we go into a house and a homeowner doesn't know anything that there's a leak going on.
Yeah.
So just, periodically poking in there, making sure that they're, touch around the trap, make sure that there's no water there. And the other thing.
How often with that though, is it just something as simple as like, it just needs to be tightened?
That's all it is, half the time, right?
Yeah.
And so, the other thing would be, so much of our culture in Eastern Idaho is do-it-yourself kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we all want to save money.
That's
we
right.
get that.
If you know how to do it, great. If not, let's get somebody that can fix it the first time and do it right.
Yeah.
Because we'll see, just to that, weird, I don't know, people doing weird things under sinks, trying to, catch it.
It's duct taped.
A duct tape, buckets.
We see that a lot with electrical, things being wired incorrectly. And we get that there's, we want to help people save money, and there are some resources of great companies that can come and do that stuff. And I have found if you do that, it usually does save you money in the long run from a bigger problem.
And I would say, kind of circling back to the inspection side, that's one of the biggest things that we look for in terms of like what are the issues that come up during the inspection. Is, are we seeing evidence of a homeowner doing a lot of their own repairs or electrical work, maybe plumbing things. So those are things that we see, and it's usually pretty obvious to us if there's not like a professional completion to that project.
Sure.
So.
Well, and I found when we're taking, buyers through properties, they're looking at, that furnace to see when it was last serviced, if it was done by a professional. They're watching for those kinds of things. It's definitely helpful. And that also comes to the point that if you're thinking about selling, I have found my homeowners that have done a pre-inspection, they provide an early inspection so you can get the property ready to list. The ones that we have that and those reports available, we have sold not only quicker, but we've had a much smoother transaction, because typically any concerns have been taken care of. It's not a big surprise when we get there. Now, of course, a buyer can still have their own inspection, but it's handy that you do that.
Yeah, we offer it, and we've been doing more and more of those. I think it's becoming more popular, and it's kind of, it seems like it comes in waves sometimes too. Depending on kind of the situation in the market, whatnot. But, that's been our experience as well. What we've done obviously is gone in and do the report. We also do a little bit of marketing on our side of it by promoting the listing on our social media and whatnot. But I think it promotes more transparency, especially in the transaction, gone ahead and done some due diligence on their part. As a seller to, fully disclose, potential issues that have come up. It just seems like a good approach, obviously in the right situation, and there's some pros and cons, obviously, to everything. But
well, there's a lot of anxiety for homeowners when they're getting ready to sell their property of, okay, we get this offer and we're under contract, and now it's that, nail biting, waiting for those, 7 to 10 days to go by, and what's the buyer going to find? And I think you can alleviate some of that stress and nervousness by doing the pre-inspection. And it's a little money, but when you think about the bigger picture, it's kind of a drop in the bucket to remove that concern and worry.
Yeah, and I mean, we get asked the question, what's the biggest deal breaker in a home inspection?
Yeah.
It really comes down to that one surprise, right? So when would you rather find out about it? And we get a little bit of pushback even from our agents sometimes. That they're like, well, then the seller's got to disclose everything.
Which is true,
it is
but
legit.
It's going to come up at some point, right?
And that's the counter, right? The buyers are going to have their own inspection. So when would you like the surprise to show up, if there is one, right?
Yeah.
Would you know it ahead of time, or after you've already had a buyer come in, made their offer, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there's a big roofing issue or some structural thing that we didn't know about. Now we're kind of starting from scratch versus knowing ahead of time. Like you're saying, when we do them, it feels like things just go more smoothly with the transaction.
Yeah, I love that. And guys, even if you're, again, not looking to buy or sell, I assume that you still offer the services. Somebody's just going, I don't know what my condition of my home is, and I want to know what problems are out there. Maybe they don't know what to look for. I mean, I remember being single and on my own, and I would have had no idea what to look for. So I assume that anybody can reach out and just have you come and do a inspection just to help them in life.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not super common. You know, most of the time we are working with buyers and sellers, right, of real estate. But on occasion, we even have some prior clients that have called us up every couple of years just to say, hey, just doing my biannual inspection just to make sure nothing's falling apart and is there still a good working order, you know. So we do plenty of those. You know, we also you brought it up to some of the other services we offer. You know, one more common one that's requested more often is the radon gas testing.
See that a lot here.
We've been doing a lot more of those, and I'm not sure if it's buyers coming from other areas that have more of it. You know, we do live in a kind of a mid to high range of radon gas here in Eastern Idaho. In fact, I think last I checked, we're at about, I think it was 46% of the homes that we test have elevated levels.
Interesting, yeah.
So it's a lot higher than people want to admit, just based on the testing that we do. So.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of its own animal there. We won't get too much into that, but then but again, it's good to know, right? Because then we can be proactive to make sure that people feel comfortable. I mean, there's, to me, a lot of things that do come up in inspections are things that can be worked through and taken care of, and there's no reason to go into panic and feel like we have to move on, because there's always going to be something in a home that maybe needs to be addressed. And there's certainly no perfect house. I've learned with just even being in a new house, things still happen. So
I would say, you know, especially if there's any real estate agents, you know, listening or watching, you know, having some kind of a conversation really helps us out in terms of what should the client, you know, expect from their inspection. You know, understanding like, hey, you know what, if you're buying a house in the wintertime and there's a foot of snow on the roof, it's going to be really hard to really get a good look at that roof, and that's just the nature of buying a house in the winter.
Yep, that's so true.
So there's some of those limitations and things. You know, we typically aren't able to move furniture, so
what?
or pull out appliances. You know, so there's some of those things that, you know, having some of those conversations up front about what to expect from the process and the home inspection then makes our job easier, and in return it makes the whole transaction a lot smoother most of the time.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you being here with me today, and hopefully you guys learned a little new nugget of information. And of course, we will post all of Idaho Elite's and Brandon's information. So if you have questions, you can reach out to him or myself. Again, we just want to be a resource. Any last words of wisdom, I guess, that you want to toss out?
I would just say, you know, be proactive about taking care of your houses, and it helps. I mean, from a personal standpoint, it makes my job easier, right?
Mine too.
Inspecting easier houses is a lot nicer, and we love giving good news. We like going into a house and saying, hey, we've done the inspection, we've gone through a whole process, and there's no major issues, and that's great for us to give, right? Yeah,
I love that. Well, again, I think you and your team do a great job in how you facilitate it and how you present the information. And so thanks again for being here today.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.